Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series here in Jönköping, Sweden, as we move on to the second match in our round of 16. It has been a bit of a one-sided start to the day, but things are getting ready to heat up as we get into one of the only remaining Protoss players in the tournament. I'm Nathanius, joined on the desk by two very handsome gentlemen, both evil geniuses, my boys. Muslim.
Evil geniuses.
Former. Yeah, former. I said former.
Now, we are like good geniuses.
Is that word applicable, Benjamin?
Of course.
Wow, why'd you single out Ben like that?
Why'd you single me out?
You were the one talking
What
it up.
about him's not good, like outwardly?
Well, that's I feel like I could ask Ben anything. I could ask Ben anything.
Great guy.
He's such a nice guy.
I don't care what Nathanius says about you.
How are you,
you're
Ben?
a good guy.
You know,
let's just block him out.
I was feeling better until this conversation made. But no, I'm doing great. Like, you know, the first match of the day, Stefano's a good friend of mine. Sad to see him go out, but he did perform pretty decently. I mean,
he did have to play for Cyril, right?
Yeah, I mean, Cyril, as far as names go in this tournament, if he can play like he does in practice, he's going to make top 4 this tournament, like almost guaranteed. He's got a tough road, but yeah, Stefano, he just looked so good yesterday, you know? He took out Ayasono, took out Harsman as well in the first group stage. He's looking pretty fresh, but it just shows you that if you play against a player that is just like fractionally better than you, and you try and play totally standard like you pointed out, it's not going to go well.
What do you think, Ben, too? I mean, kind of to turn a frown upside down, the silver lining of this is when Stefano goes out in a tournament early like this, kind of the local economy, I think, benefits quite a bit. Right? There's good stuff there, right?
Yeah, I mean, every bar in a 5-mile radius will definitely benefit from Stefano going out early, but no, yeah.
I think a lot of people wanted to see him go far. Obviously, decent performance in this tournament, but was hoping to get a little bit further. We do
you
have
could be happy with this for sure.
We do have a Protoss versus Zerg coming up. Is going to be PtitDrogo up against Nerchio. Smix is in the tournament area, ready to bring this match to us. Let's see what is happening over there.
Well, both of them were warming up. Were warming up?
Yeah,
that's fine.
We're warming up. English is hard today. Anyway, Drogo is just warming up, and then I took a peek over at Nerchio's computer, and he's actually listening to you guys, so be careful what you're saying about him.
I love you, Nerchio.
But taking a look at these two guys, they both had pretty deep runs at this tournament, obviously, so far. PtitDrogo has played 5 best-of-3s. He had to defeat 2 Swedish Zergs, one notably being Zanster, but obviously Nerchio will definitely be a harder test for him. And Nerchio, on the flip side, played 3 Terran players, notably actually lost to the Canadian Terran in Semper, so that's really interesting. But obviously Nerchio is always known for having great ZVPs, so this should be an interesting match.
It was a really cool result, actually, that Semper was able to take that series and, in his own words, some pretty macro-oriented games. But Nerchio comes in as one of the strongest players of 2016 and still one of the most feared players this year, right?
Every year. I don't know that there's ever been a year where Nerchio's not mentioned as one of the absolute best foreigners. I think back to some of the early home story cups where he was one of the only guys to defeat Koreans and win over there as well.
Consistently.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is one of the only 2 Protoss. He's well aware of how difficult the maps are. He's well aware of Nerchio. These guys have clashed many a time.
And what's interesting about these 2 players as well, when you talk about your top 4s or top 3s even of Europe, Nerchio's name always crops up, whereas Drogo's name falls about like the 8th position or so, but when it comes to just these 2 players directly matching, there's something about Drogo's style that kind of puts Nerchio off. And within regards to them playing against one another, stylistically, Drogo seems to do better than other Protossers have done against him in the past. So it's an interesting matchup.
And the question I want to pose to you guys is, if you come into this tournament, you know, from the pro gamer perspective, you're going up against a guy like Nerchio, and you saw that he lost to a player that no one's putting their chips on in this tournament, like a guy like Semper, even if it's Terran and not a Protoss player. Does that give you some confidence? Do you think Drogo comes into this, he's like, well, Nerchio's already been shown to be very mortal in this tournament. Does that give him an edge, maybe?
I don't think so.
When you talk about StarCraft 2,
yeah,
different matchups, exactly. Like, you can have a player that absolutely dominates one matchup and sucks in another one. It's been very, for example, Mana in the past. I remember he sucked against Zerg, but any Terran he met in the foreign scene, he'd absolutely decimate. Or annihilate, rather. So, yeah, you can't hold that against him. And I even spoke to Nerchio this morning. Oh, how did you play? He's like, well, actually, Semper played really good. I can't say I played my total A game, but I didn't play my best. So he played very well. So going into this matchup, totally different, as you said. Yeah, you can't really be put off by that.
So if Drogo's able to make his way through this, we've talked about this, the swarm, the sea of Zergs he has to make his way through. Do you guys like Drogo's chances moving in here? We do have the maps that are coming up for this next best of 5. Thoughts, hopes, fears?
Well, there's Blood Boil, which is weird that it made it as the #1 pick there. But as a Protoss, I think that would be the one you would veto. But
Yeah, you don't like that gold base at all, do you? Like, it's one of the patches, or it's got 8 mineral patches, which is totally normal.
Well,
or,
it just pigeonholes you because it's like, okay, I'm dealing with that gold base, and basically only Archon drop works in that situation. But Nerchio knows all of that, and anytime Nerchio knows exactly what you're going to do, you're at a huge disadvantage.
Drogo's always played slightly different PvT, though. He's always been going for, like, the very aggressive builds. Not necessarily, like, a 2-base all-in, but as soon as he hits his stride, stops production on probes entirely and just goes with, like, Archon Zealots, all that stuff. I remember he popularized some of those styles for quite some time. So maybe he might like the unorthodox maps.
Okay.
Just because not many Zergs practice on those all the time.
He's got a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
The PvZ war for Drogo, as it would seem to be, is about to begin. As Drogo versus Nerchio is ready, we're going to head over to our commentary team.
Alrighty, here we go. One strong, independent Protoss who is not worried about any of those Zergs in the top side of the bracket tot. So we've got Drogo on the right, having already a much better showing than he had in Austin, but he's going up against Mr. Consistency himself, Nerchio.
Yeah, and I think the WCS Circuit standings is a testament to that. Nerchio in 2nd place against PtitDrogo in 21st place, in dire need of more points if he wants to make the global finals.
Game number 1 is going to be played on Abyssal Reef, a map that obviously we've seen a lot over the weekend, and it's a common one in this matchup as well. Could give us a good indication of how this series will play out. We're looking at the main base of Mr. Consistency representing Euronics. It is Nerchio. Those glasses though, Carl.
That's sick.
That branding.
Mr. Consistency, by the way, is like a really nice nickname in StarCraft, but it's not sexy at all, though.
It's not sexy, but it gets the job done.
His opponent, the last player from France after Stefano went out playing for Team My Insanity, it is PtitDrogo.
We can just go back to calling him King Arthur or any of those names. Nerchio God.
I'm pretty sure he likes that quite a bit.
Or Gaccio.
When we say King Arthur.
Of course, you always get a little chuckle out of him. I think Abyssal is going to be a very important map here. Todd, of course, is always important to start off a best of 5. But I feel like this is one of these maps that's just kind of straightforward. You could say that perhaps a little bit better for Protoss than it is for Zerg, as there are a lot of choke points where you could say maybe it is possible to get up to 4 bases. But I feel if Drogo falls here in game number 1, then you already know that this is going to be a very rough best of 5.
I had a quick chat with both players, just asking them general questions, how they felt about playing earlier in the day. They're the second match of the day where we're going to have 8, and they were both pretty happy with it. Drogo did mention he would have maybe preferred playing a little bit later. It's 1:20 p.m., so you can tell he's like one of those late sleepers that wakes up in the afternoon. But other than that, I think, they're happy with the way this is going. They only got 1 match today. The rest will be played tomorrow, so happy with that. And in this case, I think they both studied each other quite a bit. They also feel quite decently confident in the matchup. And they've both played matches in this matchup very recently online in some base rate TV hosted tournaments. PtitDrogo went up against Linok, I believe it was, and Nerchio against Showtime. So there is like a lot of content out there to study from one another. And what we saw from Nerchio was like a lot of the time the basic Link, Bane, Hydra, sometimes mixing in some Mutas or Swarm Host. But the drops is what he's really good at. From time to time, and he even beat Showtime actually on Abyssal Reef with some big Hydralis drop. So something to look out for, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, he's been doing that for roughly a year. We don't always see him busted out, but I remember Cactus Valley, right? If he's left bottom and Protoss is left top, you're going to see some Hydras being dropped in the main.
And it's hard to get ready for it, too, because nobody really does it. Like, what do? You have an observer there? A Void Ray on the way? Not really, no.
And Nerchio's so smart as well. If he sees that people over-prepare that kind of stuff, then he just doesn't drop it all. Or he sends empty Overlords, and then his entire army hits the potential 4th base. But we'll see how this best of 5 plays out on Abyssal. It's hard to pull it off, but yeah, it's Nerchio. We see an Adept and a Stargate being on the way, so most likely just a double Oracle opening coming out of Drogo here. And I think out of all the games that we'll see, this is going to be the most standard, straightforward one where it often comes down to that big fight at the 4th base of the Protoss.
It's possible to catch PtitDrogo by surprise, but I don't know if Nerchio would be the guy to do that. But we remember Zenster in Austin. It was on Newkirk, I think. He went for a Ling Rush and completely caught Drogo by surprise, broke his wall. Obviously, it's one of the maps where it's kind of hard to wall off, so might come into play later, potentially. And he's in one of his more recent series as well, Drogo, he tried to go straight into Kairos on Sequencer against Linok and wasn't successful one bit. He got attacked by Hydralisks and killed right off. So when I chatted with him, he told me it's best of 5. He knows like the map can be difficult, but he has one build planned out per map. And he feels confident with it.
I think this is good news, by the way. Drogo taking his third and fourth gas before he tries to go up to 3 bases. Sometimes you see Protoss being a little bit greedy and just send out that probe immediately. But Nerchio just made the right amount of links to pick off one Adept and pick off a probe as well. But since Drogo is not delaying his gases, even if that Nexus is a tiny bit later, at least he's mining all that gas and he can start transitioning behind that. And he actually didn't even send the probe out. He's going to wipe in a couple of extra Adepts. So far, Drogo really seems to be aware of what Nerchio likes to do. And this Oracle thought, getting 3 drones just like that, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's unusual here. Actually, the Spore was a little bit delayed on that third base. The Queens weren't even in position. So the Oracle got 3 snipes. Even before taking any damage, gets 2 more.
That's kind of a shame that for Drogo. I really thought that he used those Adepts and he walked in on the other side to see if the links were there. Instead, he's going to use the Adepts and the Oracles at the same time. Getting 5 drones is great. Having your third base delayed isn't that great. But let's see if he can return the favor here, Todd, and get a few more drone kills.
Oh, he should be attacking the drones here. This is weird. He's going to go straight for the Queens, thinking that the links are not there, but they came back for the defense, and one of the Oracles will go down as well. That's going to be an easy cleanup. He should have gone for the drones, no?
Yeah, I think you're right. That mineral line was completely exposed. The links were out of position. The Oracle will be able to pick off that final queen, so he did get 3 queens.
And I guess no injects for some time, so that's a small victory here, and he needed that. Where's the Mothership Core? There isn't one.
Nope. He's been playing just pure probes. These Adepts obviously don't have Resonating Glaives, and with Overcharge, I actually think that the links might be able to get the job done here. Is there energy on this Oracle? Yes, there is. So the Oracle could very well be the saving grace here.
Yeah, some more Wapins as well are going to come into play here, and PtitDrogo will preserve his third base for now. Twilight Council now on the way. Baneling Nest for Nerchio, who's going to start a lair. Pretty sure we're going to be seeing the standard Ling Ben Hydra coming into play here from Nerchio, who doesn't go for lurkers anymore. I spoke about this with him, and he told me, well, he liked that meta because he was really good at it. He was one of the best lurkers players out there. And whereas now it feels like he's more forced to, play with more Hydralisks. He can kind of add his own touch to that with the drops. But he was really one of the truly best players with the lurkers. But now everybody got so good against lurkers that it's almost as if they're not viable anymore.
I think it's crazy if you look at Nerchio's drone count right now, Todd. 69. It really feels like this has been a scrappy game up to this point, right? Queens have been picked off. He lost 5 drones. He was not able to mine for a little while. He made a lot of Zerglings and still already close to 70 workers. As his Oracle is going to try to pick off a couple of drones. But with that 4th base on the way already, I like the opening at Drogo at first, but now it still kind of seems that Nerchio's in a pretty sweet position.
Yeah, we see 3 sentries actually being added on before going into High Templars and Storm. That's to try and Force Field and use Guardian Shield as well against the Hydralisks eventually. And in particular, Force Field, if you can get a first couple Banelings and isolate a bunch of them, that's totally worth it, but you need to be able to land those. That wall makes me nervous, man. The pylon on the top right-hand side of these gateways.
Covering everything.
It's asking to get sniped here at the fronts. I mean, you need to get there, right? And there could be overcharge and a lot of army crushing everything, but you never know what might happen later on.
That's the first Mothership Core that's being built in this game. 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Drogo went up to 70 probes before he made a Mothership Core.
I feel like if you're gonna make it now, you might as well not make it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he wants to have it against potential run-bys. I do think you made a very valid point when it comes to those pylons. There's a good chance that Nerchio at one point rolls a couple Banelings in there, blows up a pylon. This is kind of cute. A single Baneling drop. Okay, a few more Banes are going to
okay, well, there's going to be more where that came from here. PtitDrogo told me one of his main practice partners is Elaser, who's one of the absolute best at this Bane drop style. So now he's got plenty of practice against it, but he did mention that those games weren't necessarily going very well for him when he was playing against Elaser, so hopefully he's learned from his practice games, because he's about to be hit hard here by this.
Yep, this is going to be important. There is one pylon there. Where is that Mothership Core that we saw Drogo produce? It's a little bit out of position, so there's a good chance that these Lings and Banes will be able to do quite a bit of damage in this natural mineral line. There is a cannon there, but obviously it's a little bit out of position.
Yeah.
I like how Nerchio is waiting as well. He's going to show his army, and right at that point, he's going to send his Overlord in.
Oh, he can queue it from far away, then look at his army, and then that's still going to go through. And PtitDrogo has something on the left-hand side. He's got a bunch of Zealots and a Prism to try and... They're going to attack each other all over the place.
Couple Banelings trying to get close to the sentries. We do see this Bane drop, and it's going to be able to get a lot of probes. So let's take a look at the main fight. That cannon is going to fall as well. And Todd, this Hydra count looks overwhelming.
And the Zealots across the map, though, they're going to have to do a lot here for PtitDrogo to somehow come back into this. He's lost a ton of probes. He's going to town on these drones. He needs another big whop in. He's going to do that in the main base of Nerchio, who's trying to regroup and defend in that location.
Yeah, those Zealots are definitely going to town to a lot of these defensive units that Nerchio left behind. A lot of drones going down as well. The big downside, of course, is this is most likely everything is going to fall. Maybe Drogo is able to save a couple of these Zealots, but if he ends up losing all these Zealots, getting 15 drones is awesome. Did he lose the Prism, though? That's a big question.
He lost 14 probes, but killed 15 drones. Like, it might seem like a win, but against Zerg, that has more drones, that can get them out quicker, he actually needed to do more, I think.
7 Dropperlords. The Prism is still alive. I think you're right, Todd. 7 Dropperlords are being morphed. Are we going to see Banelings raining from the sky, or what is Nerchio going to do with 7 Dropperlords?
A lot of the time he drops in the main or the natural. The last time when he played against Showtime on this map, he dropped a lot of Hydralisk into the natural, but first he's trying to attack at the frontier, knowing that at most he's going to be getting trades. Where are the storms?
Yeah, you can see Drogo trying to get a good angle, and that is a very juicy storm connecting with the majority of those Hydras in the back. Quite a few Archons have gone down, but one Archon survives. Guardian Shield has been incredibly important this fight, and Drogo holds.
A great cleanup here by Drogo. Now, does he expect the big drop that's going to come in natural? He spots the Overlords with one single lone Phoenix there in that location. Now he knows there could be a big drop there. A good thing to do might be to just get or leave a few units there, get some more pylons, and dedicate the Mothership Core to kind of staying there, because, I mean, his 3rd and 4th base, he's going to have enough army there. It's really about bringing back enough army. Yes, see? There it is, the defense. He's setting it up. You mentioned that Nerchio wouldn't overcome it to the drop if Drogo was safe, but I still feel like it's obviously better for Drogo, right? Like, the nightmare scenario is that he gets dropped there and he's not ready, and now he's going to be the one on the aggression once again with the Prism and Zealots.
I think when he was doing all the damage with the Zealots on the other side of the map, as Drogo once again is going to try his luck. This time the Prism might actually go down. No, Prisms are so fast. These Zealots will get cleaned up, but I think the most important thing is that Drogo didn't lose his entire army trying to keep his fort base alive the first time. He just cancelled it, canceled the pylons. He said, you know what, I can't hold right now. I don't have the Storms, I don't have the Archons that I want. But what I will do in return is do damage and pull you back to your side of the map.
And Nerchio has shown no indication that he wanted to go for Broodlords yet, by the way. He's now finally going to Infestation Pit, but he's been playing very aggressive and not trading evenly at all, because Drogo has been defending well enough not to let that happen. Now he's starting to pull ahead in supply. This is when it gets really scary for Zerg. That has to do damage. If that drop from Nerchio doesn't do enough, he's going to be in trouble.
It's a complete fake. He's going to try to pull the army out of position. Overcharge is being used as well. And this is when Nerchio is going to try to find an opening on the north side, but normally the Zerg's supposed to be up. It's oh my god, the Immortal's going to take a lot of the Banes. Yeah, that's well done. Pig out there. He's clapping in the audience. We just heard him as this force gets pushed back as well. Man, Drogo's playing solid here, Todd.
And he keeps on pulling ahead and ahead in supply there. I think in a minute, he's going to start heading across the map. Those Banelings, though, they're about to come out from the stasis wards. Don't ignore these guys. This could backfire quickly.
Sentries might go down.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter here at this point. Look at the supply. Drogo with so many High Templars.
What is Nerchio supposed to do? I mean, he's got a decent economy. One Oracle does get donated there. It's a little bit sloppy because that's kind of an expensive unit. But as long as Drogo keeps a couple of Storms alive, wow, 3 Archons, by the way, on the left side. Seems like Drogo's going to set up for a big flank as well. He's like, I like what you did with the Hydras, but I'm going to raise it with Archons and Zealots.
Another Storm's going to land there. Nerchio could be in big trouble momentarily. No sign of any transition. It doesn't feel like he's going to be able to go into anything. And in this case, PtitDrogo's army just looks so scary at this point with so many High Templars and Storms available. He wants in more High Templars.
You know what also speaks to me, Todd? The lack of creep spread in this game. This is not something we normally see of these top European Zergs, right? There's almost no creep here at all. As these Banelings try to go through the Archons, that looked a little bit derpy. We've seen Protoss players overcommit in this phase in the game if the Zealot count isn't high enough. But Drogo always popping Guardian Shield and having a couple of Storms as well to retreat. Seems like he's safe.
Nerchio did a very good job here of pulling back the Hydralisk just before Storm was going to hit. And I think PtitDrogo, he also has a bit of a history of throwing games. Yeah. And he definitely here had a little flashback moment where he thought, oh god, like not another one of these, please. So he's just going to pull back, play it safe, get a Mothership. Honestly, for as long as there is no Hive Tech on the way, I think you're fine just kind of waiting and massing to get close to maxing out. Taking a 5th base as well. All you have to look out for is Baneling drops, which Drogo now is well set up on the natural and third base to defend.
I totally agree. I think as long as Drogo is able to deny the 5th base of Nerchio, that Nerchio is trying to take right now on the left side at 9 o'clock. But if Drogo... Did Drogo scout that, by the way, Todd? Does he know about this? Okay, he doesn't know about it yet. I think it's very important. As long as you shut that down, 4 bases on Legacy don't last forever. And with Storm and all the Immortals and a couple of stasis traps as well, and now the Mothership soon, I think normally there's no way that Drogo is supposed to lose a head-on engagement.
Ooh, that attack on the right-hand side is looking dangerous. There's so many Banelings out there. PtitDrogo is going to warp a lot of units that are going to crash against those Banelings.
At least the Zealots split up a little bit. That could have been a lot uglier.
Ooh.
Baneling's going to try to make their way into the middle line, but this middle line is actually a little bit empty. A couple of probes being evacuated there to the left side as Drogo has cannons to fall back on as well.
And he went for the Prism in the main again. That's a big warp in this time, for which Nerchio is completely not ready for. He has everything across the map. He might be able to get some key buildings here if he targets, say, for example, that Hive.
Yeah, maybe even a Hive, as that Zealot count was quite high. Instead, he's going to settle for a couple of drones. The Spore Crawler went down, and a few of the Hydras are going to go down as well.
He's using that to move across the map undetected right now. PtitDrogo is going to regroup on Nerchio's side of the map, have all these High Templars next to his army, ready to storm. It's 4 of them with full energy. And that attack here could be really scary. The War Prism did survive again. PtitDrogo did such a good job of pulling that back every single time, because if you leave it there a little bit too long, Hydra is going to snipe it very quickly.
I like how you said he moved across the map undetected, because he's under a mothership.
Not even that was spotted.
A couple of High Templars in the mix as well. I'm not even sure if Nerchio has any vision here. Are there any Overseers nearby? Yes, there is an Overseer. Storms will land. This seems like a decent engagement for Nerchio. Obviously, the army of Drogo is way stronger, but this is as good as it will get for the Polish Zerg. But even this might not be enough, Todd. There's a couple of Hydras left, but they're all so low on HP.
Yeah, and there is a Prism behind this here. It's almost as if this Mothership could help and warp in somehow. But no, it's the Prism. And PtitDrogo is going to press forward. He's got way more army now. It looks like Nerchio has no answer for this.
Really?
Even a carrier starting behind this.
A really sick game by our French Protoss. He had an answer to everything that Nerchio threw at him. He was able to keep the doors shut against those run-bys. And most importantly, did he lose a Prism once this game? No, right?
I don't think so. No.
Wow.
Oh, no, he lost one earlier.
But still.
Yeah, well, to be honest, considering how much work these Prisms did, almost feels like it doesn't even matter. Like, they did so much. He evacuated most of the time with them. And now 3-0 upgrades here up for PtitDrogo. Nerchio trying to hold on here in this game. The caster curse, that Prism almost flew in.
He did so well. A couple of Banelings are morphing. Drogo has to be a tiny bit careful because he's floating some money, and this would be a silly moment to throw away your army. Getting a second
It's another one of those moments.
Yeah.
It's like, not again.
He's like, I can probably win here, but you know what? Let's just actually spend my money. A couple of idle probes there as well. But overall, what a game by our French Protoss. It's 1 Protoss in the upper side of this bracket against 7 Zergs. Well, one of the Zergs went down. But so far, in game number 1, of course, Abysso is a good map. Let's not get carried away just yet.
Yeah.
But Drogo is showing us that this is a very competitive series.
And Nerchio mentioned to me that he thought that setting the pace in the series would help him a lot in order to be successful. And so far in that first map here, it's PtitDrogo running the show with some great defense throughout the entire game.
Yep. And also definitely somebody who has learned from his mistakes. I love how you pointed it out. Drogo has a little bit of a reputation for throwing games. This game twice, I think there was a moment to finish it, and he's like, yeah, you know what, actually, I can find a better spot. There's really no need for me to overcommit.
Yeah.
I'm winning this game. He's listening to Artosis somewhere out there. You know, if you're ahead, get more ahead. He's doing it, Todd.
And at this point, I feel like Nerchio's getting desperate. Going to Neural Parasite, Burrow, and a couple Infestors. He's going to evacuate that base here at the bottom, knowing that there is no way he's going to be able to take that.
I mean, Nuru and a dream, right? I can't blame Nerchio for sticking around in this game a little bit longer. Did a good job evacuating the drones as well. Somehow, Nerchio still has 62 drones.
Keep in mind, there's no observer with this army here of PtitDrogo. Oh my god.
We casted a couple of these games last week, Todd, on Sequencer. I don't think my Protoss heart is ready for it. We only have 2 of them this tournament left. But I mean, okay, at least he's getting Graviton Catapult as well. That's kind of an important upgrade.
And yeah, this is almost like, what's the one way he could lose? And the one way he could throw away the game? Well, some sick neural and lack of detection, I guess.
Do we have an Oracle out? No.
No.
No Oracle, no Observer. Okay, this is the one thing. Of course, we do have a couple of cannons to fall back on.
Yeah.
But Drogo's maxed out, by the way, Todd. He needs to kill a couple of his own Zealots.
But here's what worries me. He's not going to find out about the Infestors, I think, because these guys are burrowed. And they're close to the army of Nerchio. Like, obviously, Nerchio's army is still really small. in comparison. 73 army to
Yeah,
127. Like,
But if
PtitDrogo should win here regardless, but we've seen crazier things.
Okay, there's an observer on the production tab. That's good news for all the Protoss fans and Drogo fans out there. But this army right now still doesn't have an observer. Drogo, this could be the moment where a lot of your units will get neural. Nerchio's gonna go for a last-ditch effort. What does he take over, Todd? A couple of carriers that are cloaked as well. Drogo loses almost everything. Oh my god. Not again, Todd.
What is this? It's like a puppet show.
Well, okay, a couple of storms do end up later on. Most of the Hydras did go down. A lot of infested Terrans being dropped. It looked very scary there for a second, but Drogo is incredibly rich. The reinforcements are probably going to save the day.
Nerchio had a really weird army movement where he ran into the Protoss army with his Hydra disc, and GG gets called PtitDrogo after a little bit of a scare. Yeah, he's laughing about it.
He knows it. He's like, oh.
He knows what almost just happened there. Woo! That was way closer than he should have been. Too close for comfort there.
Yeah, when he was up 60, 70 army supply, you're maxed out and richer. A fight is never supposed to be that close. Yeah, very good last-ditch effort there by our Polish Zerg. All right, Todd, we've got Abyssal out of the way. Great game by Drogo. Nerchio got, kind of picked apart by the War Prism. Mostly just, was running all over the place. But let's see what map number 2 brings us. As I think it's safe to say from this point on, it's going to get tougher for Drogo.
Yeah, we should talk about the maps in best of 5, right? Like Defender's Landing and Blood Boil both can be pretty hard against Zerg, so usually like you will have at least to play one of them. Since you have the greatest memory in StarCraft and you always remember everything, oh actually, yeah they are.
Proxima and Defenders were vetoed.
So, thoughts?
I'm tiny bit surprised that he prefers Blood Boil over Defenders, but I think that's a personal thing. I think a lot of Protoss players just hate this very small map, where it feels like there's almost nothing you can do.
How do you deal with a map like this when you know it's really hard to play on it? You just throw in a crazy build. PtitDrogo mentioned to me that he thought that he had very specific builds on each map. So, maybe something crazy like I don't know, one base, a gold base into mass gateways. Yeah. Sometimes you can try to really surprise the opponent and play to the map and its difficulty.
Yep, we saw a couple of the American Protoss players, right? Going one gate fast expand towards the gold and then just trying to hang in there. But we saw players like Jon Snow being able to dismantle that kind of an opening. I don't know, I am incredibly curious to see what Drogo brings to the show here on Blood Boil. But if he can somehow steal this map, I mean, obviously if you're up 2-0 in a best of 5, it's always sick. But that has to be crushing for Nerchio. Losing Blood Boil, normally not something that's supposed to happen.
You know what I'm hyped about, and I hope we see Sequencer, man.
All these map?
What?
It's the 5th map, Decided's map?
I didn't see, but I hope it comes into play no matter what, because we always get like longer games on this map, like crazy ones. We saw Jon Snow defeating multiple carrier armies. That was funny actually last game, because PtitDrogo was only on 1 Stargate for like a long time, and then at the end he's just started 1 carrier. He made the fleet beacon just for mothership, and he was like, well, I already got it, so might as well get some carrier. He started 1, which looks almost funny, like late in a game like this.
Was pleasing the Protoss fans, just get a little bit of everything, showing how diverse the Protoss arsenal can be. All right, we have loaded in to Blood Boil, this beautiful map that has been created by our dedicated, passionate map maker, Avex.
The best.
And we're looking at the main base of our Polish Zerg. Representing Euronics, it is Nerchio. Of course, our runner-up of Austin and currently 2nd in the WCS rankings.
His opponent in the blue, playing Protoss, it's my Insanities, PtitDrogo.
Won DreamHack Leipzig in 2016. Ever since then, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for Drogo. Had a couple of good showings at a home Story Cup here and there, but where Nerchio is Mr. Consistency, I feel that Drogo's almost the opposite.
It's Mr. Inconsistency.
Yeah, but it sounds so mean, but like we know how good Drogo is and we know what he's capable of, but every now and then it just bombs out in the round of 62 or 64 or even 32, and then the next event he suddenly shows up and he puts up a performance like we just saw. Like, let's not forget, in the group stage, Drogo beat Neep. He went from losing to Probe in Austin to beating Neep here in Jönköping. I mean, that's crazy. Probe is good, but Neep is Neep.
Yeah, Neep's PvP in particular is well known for being excellent. These two, actually, they both went to the global finals last year, and they had the exact same results. They took 3rd in a very stacked group. Yeah. I think, wasn't Nerchio with like Dark and Stats or something?
No,
like,
Nerchio lost the decider against Elaser.
It was PtitDrogo that was with Dark and Stats.
Yeah.
And Nerchio, yeah, lost to Elaser also in that very important match. But both of them third place in that, so they were very close to making top 8 at least.
Wasn't that ridiculous game where Drogo played against Snoot and he had like 14 Archons against pure Baneling, like Baneling Ravager.
Oh yeah,
it's like the biggest blue bulb of Archons that we've ever seen on Frost. And there's like one MVP Immortal in the middle of the army that has like 12 bodyguards.
It's almost like an imaginary matchup. It's like how many Archons does he take to kill all those Banelings and vice versa.
It's like, who put the unit playtester on WCS stream? It's like, no guys, this is an actual game.
Nerchio opening up with the gold base. Not surprising, you know, he's been known to do this. PtitDrogo will be well aware of this, and I'm sure he has something planned to try and counter that gold base. Now, what is it? That's the big question there.
Gonna follow that with a Stalker. Maybe it's an Archon drop. I'd probably say Archon drop trying to bounce between maybe the low ground and the main, because units will kind of have to go all the way around.
We started hearing about this and about how it's one of the builds that can be really good against this.
And there is a Stalker. Obviously, the Stalker is excellent in denying an Overlord from scouting, so you could potentially keep the Zerg player in the dark a little bit. But we see the robotics facility as well, so most likely we'll see the War Prism here with the 4 Dark Templars. Maybe he goes crazy thought. Maybe it's like, I mean, I want to say maybe he goes like double Prism and 6 or 8 DTs, but then I forgot about the fact that makes Blood Bowl unique, and that is that you don't have 2 assimilators in your natural. There is only 1 Vespian geyser there, and it's hard to get 6 or 7 DTs.
It might take a while, yeah. But then again, the opponent wouldn't expect it then. But it'd be prepared enough, yeah. I don't think we're going to see that. Here's the thing about this map, like you got a Pocket expansion, like everybody hates on because there is only 1 gas there, sure. But attacking a Protoss on 3 bases is actually pretty tough. Unless you're going to do drops all over the place, which obviously you can still do. That natural pretty well protected. You got a whole bunch of rocks and ice back there to defend that. Yeah, and might be the plan for Drogo to just go into 3 bases, see what Nerchio's up to, and maybe even go into Disruptors, who knows?
Yeah, you make a valid point there. A lot of Protoss players say, you know, this map wouldn't actually be that bad if it wasn't for the gold. There are just so many minerals at that gold base, and the Zerg just makes, the gold makes Zerg so incredibly powerful. If there was no gold base on Blood Bowl, this map wouldn't be all that bad. Obviously, having 1 Vespian geyser in the back of your natural isn't the dream, you know, you prefer to have 3. But it's definitely something that Protoss players can work with when it comes to how the map is designed.
Yeah.
It's just the gold that has in general given Protoss players a lot of trouble, as obviously Zerg benefits so much from the extra minerals.
Nerchio didn't even sacrifice an Overlord, by the way. He's like such a polar opposite to Elaser. Like from Elaser, you always see Pneumatized Carapace and then Overlords flying all across the place, scouting everything. Nerchio's like, nah, I got 2 Xel'Naga towers, I got a bunch of Overlords near your base. I'll just kind of sit there and see what comes out of it.
Good scout there with the Zergling, is going to be able to spot the Prism. Drogo's not even going to try to test the waters with his Dark Templars. Just morph them into Archons immediately, but Nerchio is more than ready for this.
And this is keeping Nerchio on very low drone count, 42 to 50. Like with PtitDrogo taking the 3rd base now, I mean, sure, it's a gold base from Nerchio, but good job by Drogo to go for this so far and make sure that Nerchio stays honest here with his economy.
Are you worried about the army of Drogo perhaps being a little bit too small? This War Prism immediately takes a lot of damage. Access denied. The Roach is going to show up here. I wonder if he lets that Zealot Warp in finish. Yes, he will. But Charge hasn't even started yet, Todd. I mean, I guess
I think he's trying to tank some damage with the Zealots while the Archons go to town on these drones. Oh my god. They were so close to get so much here. Just 3 drones are going to fall in the first place, but he was already ahead in the work accounts.
The 2nd Prism is going to perhaps warp in a couple of Dark Templars here. Imagine if he gets a snipe on the Spore Crawler. I don't think the layer is done yet. Is there? Okay, the layer is done because we see a Spire.
Oh, he's going straight for the Spore on that 2nd.
Could get the Spore and then maybe Spire. Drones are being pulled. Transfuse could potentially land.
He needs to attack these drones as well.
He's doing good work though. Wow, that's a lot of damage. The 2nd Prism really catching Nerchio off guard.
Yeah, he can get the Spire. Oh my god. Okay, now there is an Overseer, so it's going to have to be an evacuation for Drogo, who's still fighting at the gold base as well. Has to pick up the Archons there too, but those Roaches have been injured, and he's been able to snipe some drones here and there.
What do you do right now if you're Drogo? Do you throw down Stargate Salt, or do you just try to defend with Blink?
I think you might just have to, I don't know, because if you attack, obviously Nerchio can get enough Roach, Ravager, and Ling on the ground to defend. It's almost as if, it feels like the pressure is on Drogo, right, seeing this Spire. It's a timer over his head. Yeah, I think he might just stay on Archon, Zealot, and then maybe do an attack with the Immortals that he's going to have by then.
This is going to be really cool. It's almost like watching somebody play Archon mode. 2 Prisms, Archon drop on both sides.
But one.
Yeah, that was me. I'm the bad ally. I lost it. It's like, sorry, can you wipe in 2 more DTs? I lost my Archon. Drogo's going to try to do some more damage here in this, well, second base technically of Nerchio that he took after the gold. That one Spore is eventually going to get picked off. Obviously,
And that Spire, it's so frustrating to see it there and not be able to snipe it. Like, it's such a weak building, you know, it dies decently fast. But obviously, Nerchio has enough forces around. He's going to have transfuses available. And the first 5 mutas are going to start.
I think you were right when it came to Drogo's just going to try to end the game. He's making a bunch of cannons at home. He hasn't even started Blink. So this basically means that if he... Well, is he going to go up to a gold now?
That'd be a mistake, I think.
That's, yeah, I think he should try to end it and just like...
Or maybe, actually, he could do the creator style, remember in Tomb Valley? Where, like, you get cannons on each base, and then you just max out with a lot of Stalkers and a lot of army. And you make sure that you basically have enough cannons to counter the mutas, because nobody goes mass mutas anymore as well, right?
That's true, but I feel if you don't have Blink, how are you actually going to be able to defend against those mutas? 11 Ravages being morphed now, but you are spot on. Nerchio only made a couple. If Nerchio would just keep making mutas now, I think Drogo would be in so much trouble because he has the worst army ever to defend multiple bases at once.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's going to try to split. That gold base surely going to be cancelled there. Which is not the end of the world. I mean, sure, Nerchio is mining from a fourth now.
We don't even have charge yet, though. Did he forget charge, you think, Todd? That has to be a mistake.
Yeah, definitely. With the amount, yeah, there it is.
Okay.
It's so cheap now, too. I was just thinking about it. I was like, 200, 200, that's not that expensive considering his economy. Then I was like, no, wait. It's 100, 100? There is no way. Like, he should not have made it.
Pretty much no reason to ever not get it if you're set up on 3 bases. Nerchio producing 30 links. I'm actually a little bit shocked. I really like that you brought us up, Todd, because every Zerg is like, you know, I'm going to make the 7 mutas and then force out a couple of cannons, force out a small reaction, and from that point on, I'll go back. But I feel that if the Protoss is like reacting in such an underwhelming way almost, you know, don't get Blink, no Stargate, no cannons, why wouldn't you just keep making mutas? Yeah. Like, Nerchio could have had like 30 mutas by now.
That's the problem. You cannot know that. Like, it's very hard. You would have to be scouting with Overseers, keeping tabs on the army, maybe even the Twilight Council, but then he can't be sure whether Charge or Blink is on the way. So maybe more scouting, I guess, might have helped here for Nerchio. Otherwise, it would have been a gamble.
Nerchio's getting... Oh, what's he going to do with those changelings? Create a little bit of a force field, perhaps. These are slow banelings, Todd. It's really hard to get the connections you're looking for with slow banes. But Nerchio just wants to deny the 4th base over and over again. And he successfully does get another cancel.
And this is mostly because there is no High Templars with Storm here. Because of the way the game has gone, and you know they've been fighting a whole bunch, PtitDrogo was afraid that there would be an engagement at any time because he was across the map with a lot of units. He just went straight into Archons. Didn't even bother.
Oh my, that's so many slow Zealots. But Charge has finally finished up. But the Bailing count is quite high, and Charge is about to finish up. How many Bailings do we currently look at? There are 12 more on the way. Nerchio has 32 Bailings. Good luck splitting your Zealots against that many Banes. Can Drogo somehow keep this base alive? He does have a massive warp in there. It actually seems like Drogo is doing a pretty good job.
Oh my god, these Zealots are finally gonna charge forward here onto those Ravagers. Nerchio gets cleaned up. Look at the supply. PtitDrogo pulling really far ahead with way more army. And very easily could go for a counter-attack there. But he really wants that 4th base.
That was sick. 32 Bailings and a couple of Zealots somehow survived it all. And that extra warp in, Drogo having so many gates.
Wow, I can't... Is PtitDrogo gonna win Blood Bowl?
Yeah. Are we witnessing esports history over here, Todd? We've checked the statistics. Jeff is crunching the numbers backstage, but this has not happened since this map has been introduced. Drogo is putting on a lot of pressure. He did lose a lot of his Zealots here, though. Does he have... Well, he has a few more Archons showing up, and these Immortals are still standing very, very strong.
Yeah, they're cleaning up house. There's Archons at the front tanking all the damage, and PtitDrogo is just gonna clean up and take the win on Blood Bowl. It looks like Nerchio may be in a lot of trouble here in this series.
I mean, I feel like Drogo just called the bluff of Nerchio. GG, Drogo goes up 2-0, winning a map that a lot of Protoss players will pretty much always veto. He just didn't respect that Spire, Todd. You know, remember when we had to respect Void Rays?
Yeah.
I think we have to respect Mutas too, but Drogo didn't. He didn't get a Stargate, he didn't get Blink. You know what happens when I do this against the NA Zerg that has 5400 MMR?
15 mutas flying.
32 mutas, Todd. I don't have a shot. I ain't got a shot. But Drogo just didn't respect that Spire, was just convinced that Nerchio would just force out some sort of a reaction and then go back into Ravages and Banes. Drogo just focused on the Zealots, focused on Immortals and Archons. Not a good army against mutas. But well, he didn't really have to worry about the mutas other than the 6 or 7 mutas that were initially created.
He was super ready at home, though. He handled it exactly right. Look at his DNS showing some love to PtitDrogo. He's like, "You're doing it, man. You won Blood Boy. The president will give you a gold medal when you, a silver star when you get back to France."
They just paused the Counter-Strike tournament as well. It's like, someone won Blood Boil? It's like, let's take a look at the StarCraft stream real quick.
Really well played here by PtitDrogo, and from Nerchio, like, you have to wonder, like, we call him Mr. Consistency for a reason, right? Like, this was exactly the right nickname for him. Not that consistent here so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily use the word brag, but he likes to bring it up himself as well. You know, often whenever he has a good performance, he's like, that's the kind of consistency I'm going for, you know, like another top 3 or another top 4 or qualifying again for Challenger.
Yeah. Last year in the WCS Circuit, he finished 3rd in those rankings behind Neeb and Showtime. This year, he's 2nd after Neeb. So he's supposed to be one of those guys, you know, that always makes, I would say, at least top 4, right? If not better. But now, facing elimination here.
And Drogo, the one lone Protoss standing in this upper bracket of WCS Jönköping, surrounded by 7 Zergs, looking incredibly good. But we're not there yet. Game number 3 is going to be played on Ascension 2 IR. Quite a wide open map as well. Seen a couple of PvZs already.
Did you see Cyril looking at Nerchio? He gave him the stink eye. He's like, how can that guy lose to Protoss?
They're discussing it. I see Showtime sitting in the back there as well. Thought, here we go for game number 3. Our Polish Zerg, spawning in the right bottom side, is on the ropes. Can he bring it back? Representing Euronics. 2nd player in the ranking at the moment, it is Nerchio. 2nd in points, 2nd in Austin. Probably 2nd in some sort of a challenger, but mostly 3rd and 4th lately.
His opponent in the blue. He's got all the momentum in the world. He's got all baguettes and friends cheering for him. It is my Insanity's PtitDrogo. Not quite the Red Bull glasses, but these are pretty cool too.
He's playing fantastic. I'm incredibly impressed with Drogo. I did think that this was going to be a very competitive series, but I was still leaning more towards Nerchio, mostly because of the map pool. But from this point on, I mean, Sequencer is not that bad of a map for Protoss. A lot of Protoss players are like, no, you know, Sequencer is actually all right, because you just expand via the south side, you can ignore the one base that only has 1 gas. Ascension to IR, as our lovely observer Kevin, our Mapu TV, is showing us as well, is kind of a wide open map, but at the same time, you know, it's a large map as well. So when it comes to those Hydra Bane timings, they arrive a little bit later than they do on, let's say, Abyssal.
And also, you have plenty of space to build around your mineral lines that you're going to see them and spot them on time. Last game, though, Nerchio opened with a nice spinning drop that was well-timed with the attack at the front. That still did a lot of damage, but it was the Warp Prisms that started doing more damage than this, that he maybe didn't defend well enough and wasn't ready for.
You know what I think we're going to see out of Drogo here? Probably the 1-gate Stargate that we saw on Abyssal. And I think the main reason why is because there's a lot of space in the main. And there's a good chance that eventually Nerchio starts dropping stuff into his main as well. So already having a Stargate out because you open up with the Stargate, I think makes sense. Like, I don't think an Archon drop is terrible here, or if you would somehow do something different, I'd be shocked. I'd say it's either Stargate or Archon drop, but I think we're going to see a Stargate here, just so you have it for a potential later in phase in the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, Stargates, it's one of those maps where it still can be like pretty useful. These oracles, they're always good, especially when you're as good as these guys and you can keep them alive, snipe some drones here and there, and then eventually tag your opponent's army. Even though, like, everybody has been prioritizing immediate damage over saving energy, like, from early on. And Robo is going to start early there.
That is weird, though, because that's different, right? Normally it's Twilight, and then a little bit later you see the Robo. We're going to see an Archon drop. So
you know what I'm feeling here?
What are we feeling?
Charge. Charge with gateways and Zealots. I think PtitDrogo did that, perhaps. Like, I watched a bunch of VODs earlier, and might have done that against Linok. It can be really strong, especially if not spotted. What did Nerchio not do previously on Blood Boil? Scout. He's, like I said, he's the polar opposite of Elaser. Elaser almost every single game against Protoss, you see Pneumatized Carapace. Nerchio doesn't do that. He's like, nah, I don't need to scout what you're going to do. I'll just get ready for pretty much everything. But then there might be one thing that he's less ready against. Say if he skips Roach One and then has to face Charge Loss, good luck with Zergling and Banes against decent splits. So if PtitDrogo was to go for something like a Prism and a Zealots, it might be very dangerous, but we see an Immortal start.
Yeah, this is kind of odd. Like, what is he gonna do? Is he
The
gonna
Soul
bust
Train?
out the Soul Train? Like, is Parting watching the stream, and does he suddenly have a lot of Soul? This is kind of odd. I mean, Nerchio's getting a couple of Spore Crawlers that are going to be quite useless. The only purpose they will ever have is maybe that you can push them forward and push the Prism away if you have some creep connecting your bases. You know, do you remember the build that Naniwa showed us quite a few times, where you get like one Immortal or two Immortals, and you just warp in only Zealots, you stop mining gas completely?
That was sick.
Yeah, that was a fun build.
But you would do that with the little gas. Now I see PtitDrogo taking gas 3 and 4 already.
So odd though, right? What an odd opening. Immortal
Maybe he
drop.
wants to sell it as that, because he still thinks that Nerchio might not do as much scouting as usual. Which, by the way, if you look at the right-hand side of the main base of PtitDrogo, he's being very careful with pylons in case there would be a drop, but also that's going to allow him to see very early if he's getting scouted from something like an Overlord or an Overseer.
This time he's getting a slightly earlier Mothership Core as well. He's not waiting that long, getting it after 44 probes. That's obviously still a little bit late, but Drogo just convinced that Nerchio is not going to cheese here with his tournament life on the line. Oh, these sentries are a little bit out of position, Todd, and the Mothership Core down, but those are some good force fields by Drogo.
But it's very good by Nerchio to force energy being used, especially since he didn't lose many links for it, because now there is going to be less force fields in the fight and no hallucination either.
You can see Nerchio keeping these links around. It's going to make it hard for Drogo to go up to 3 bases. Drogo instead is, you know, obviously flying that Prism to the other side of the map. One Immortal, obviously Barrier is a little bit useful against the Lynx. Like in general, Immortals are not great against Zerglings, but they have so much HP and they can buffer a lot as well that if you can micro your Adepts behind it a little bit, maybe there's a window of opportunity here for Drogo to do some damage. But this is not something we see incredibly often.
Nerchio's not ready for this. He didn't see it coming. He has all his units in the middle of the map. He's going to start taking some damage there and might lose the Queen even.
I love the focus fire of the Adepts. The Adepts just one-shotting drones
Oh,
here.
the Prism.
The Queen is taking a lot of damage, but quite a few drones have gone down. 5 drones in total. But he's still...
Are there force fields?
Yeah,
Not enough, though.
Overcharge a little bit late, but he will be able to drop at least one overcharge. And these Zealots are actually keeping the sentries safe there as well. On the south side, Drogo is just looking bulletproof so far in this entire series.
Well, I hope he's Baneling proof as well, because Nerchio is going to be going for a big bust here onto that third base, and there is no force fields left available except for one. So even the pylon is going to be super exposed. If that gets blown up, then it's just those units on their own. And how are you supposed to split against this?
Yeah, he needs to split his Zealots a little bit. As long as his army is not clumped up, and Nerchio gets this around. Overcharge being activated as well. Could use the Banelings on the pylon. That's exactly what Nerchio does.
Wow.
But it seems like the Zealots thought are still safe here, are going to be able to keep this base safe as well.
I feel like that went better than it should have here for PtitDrogo, because those Banes all had to be detonated onto that pylon. And for now, PtitDrogo will defend. He's going to stabilize on the third base. And he's ahead by 9 walkers, Roddy.
If I was Nerchio here, I'd get Aspire, but this time I'd actually commit to it, Todd. This Warp Prism is still being annoying as well. This is amazing. Drogo's multitasking throughout the series has been on point. Really not that many mistakes. Like here and there we saw an Archon getting picked off, but then we're just nitpicking. He's playing fantastic.
Yeah, the creep spread had gotten kick-started very well, but even that was denied. Like there is an observer of PtitDrogo down there between the natural and third base, and he dropped the Immortal and denied the script tumors. Like that in itself, like might not. It might seem like a small detail, but it's huge. For a follow-up attack later on eventually.
Yep, 5 extra gates, +1 finishing up. Layer is about to be done. It feels like a very late layer as well. It's 7 minutes, 20 seconds. Are we going to see that Spire being thrown out immediately? Or is it going to be the Hydra then? It will be the Hydra then, with Baneling speed on the way as well. And an Infestation Pit immediately as well.
Maybe thinking about some sort of Swarm Host there, which Nerchio is very capable of using as well. But in this game, it just feels like he's so far behind.
Yeah, these Hydras may actually just come too late. We're going to see a Dropper-Lord there as well, a couple of Dropper-Lords. So perhaps Nerchio can defend here if he's able to drop a couple of Banelings on top of this army. But I like this move out by Drogo. And he's doing this off the back of 68 probes as well. Nerchio perhaps overdroned a tiny bit here, having the feeling that Drogo was not going to attack him. Well, here is Drogo. And can Nerchio get out the right amount of Banes? Baneling speed still not done.
There's quite a few Archons here. If PtitDrogo can get the right splits, he might be able to do well. Does not quite get it, but he still has so much left over here with the Archons and that one Immortal. And now the Zealots are going to go uncontested. And they've got charge.
The Queens are going to be very important here. They can pick off perhaps an Archon or two from far away. Nerchio is evacuating that point. He's actually fighting with the drones. Look at that Prism. I think it's really important. Nerchio wants to get the Prism, and he will get the Prism, but not before. The Warp-In finishes up. And can the Poly Zerg somehow stabilize? Or is Drogo gonna trio Nerchio over here in the round of 16?
It's really looking like it right now. He's powering through that fourth base. Those queens had to get chased away. It feels like Nerchio is scrambling, trying to get enough banelings here to survive a little bit longer in this series. But look at this amount of charge lots and Archons and that one Immortal being royal behind this.
The one problem is, though, the Prism did get picked off, Todd, so it's going to be hard to reinforce this push. One of the Archons very low on HP. The Queens are taking a lot of damage, though. Look at the micro of Drogo saving that Archon in the back. And now Nerchio is forced to evacuate this base as well. Without reinforcements, Todd, he is still doing this well.
We saw a Frenchman get 3-0'd earlier. It looks like PtitDrogo has reversed the tendency there. And he's the one 3-0ing his opponents right now. I really don't know how Nerchio is supposed to come back from this. 31 drones have died. And even though he defends, he's facing a Protoss on 4 bases, who's apparently a merciful god, because he's going to sacrifice that one Immortal there.
It's cool. Maynard showed up as well. Just kidding, Maynard.
Oh my god.
As the War Prism is making his way across the map, I mean, Drogo is just incredibly far ahead. He's up 21 workers, has +2 attack. He's getting a couple of cannons as well, perhaps worried about some sort of a counter drop, but he's pulling everything. Drogo knows it, man.
Yeah, he's getting more gates. These are like the happiness gates.
Yeah, this is like, oh, my life is good. I'm getting a couple extra Archons. What else do I want? You know, a few more Zealots. Let's get a few more Zealots. What a performance by our French Protoss, who really seems to be back. And what a quarterfinal. Is that going to be tomorrow, Todd? Drogo versus Serral? With the way that Drogo just played? Well, let's get ready to party.
Sending a message to all Zergs out there. Be ready, because I am. He showed a lot of his good builds, but I mean, with the way he's playing, I feel like it's not even just about build orders. Like, obviously, they've helped and he was well prepared. But everything that he did, yeah, the execution, the multitask, everything, the micro, the reaction to everything. Like, sure, a couple of drops here did some damage, but GG gets called and PtitDrogo gets the great 3-0 win here up against Nerchio.
A very rare sight when it comes to foreign StarCraft. Nerchio going down 0-3. These are not words we say very often. What a performance by the French stars. Drogo really showing us that he has definitely not giving up on his dream. You said it, he made it to the global finals last year, Todd. Had a rocky start of his WCS year so far. Obviously played a couple of challenges from Korea as well, which made it difficult for Drogo. But boy, oh boy, was that impressive by this young man, who is standing next to the lovely Sue, and I can't wait to hear what Drogo has to say after that stunning best of 5.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam. Stunning best of 5 indeed. First of all, congratulations. 3-0, you're moving forward at this event. I know that earlier on at this event, you defeated 2 Zergs, but then you were going up against Nerchio, who is by far the best of the Zergs you faced. Did you expect it would be a 3-0? I mean, what were your expectations coming into this series?
I mean, I think Nerchio, well, he's made, like, to some, is the best deck in Europe. I think his EVP is by far his worst matchup, in my opinion. So I was not too scared. Like, I thought I could win. 3-0, I did not really expect. At some point, I expected just to lose a game to one of his shenanigans. But yeah, I mean, it was in the realm of possibilities.
Now, I've actually heard that Elazer is one of your practice partners, and you practice a lot of PvZ against him. So how much has that helped you mold your particular PvZ and learn how to play that matchup?
Well, it's kind of different, because Elazer plays a very different style. But, I mean, yeah, like, if you lose, it's good practice. Like, I think I'm 2-16 versus Elazer in practice. So, yeah, it's... I mean, it had to have helped, you know? Like, when you get crushed that much, you have to pick up good habits to get crushed a bit less.
Now, in this particular series, I think a lot of people were... When you won Blood Boil, were you shocked at all? Because I know that for some people, they expected that to be the map, if you were to lose, for it to be that map.
Yeah, the build I did on Blood Boil was kind of my own creation, I think. I was thinking, like, how can I win this map? And this is the build I come up with. It's pretty good if you don't expect it, but I don't think I'm ever going to be able to use it ever again. Because it's really greedy, it's easily counterable if you know it's coming. It has so many defaults, but if you don't really know what's happening, it's pretty solid. It's the best way to play the map.
Now, moving forward, you're going to be facing Serral. A lot of people talk up this guy a lot. They say he's really, really good. From your experience, because I know I've heard that you've practiced a lot on the ladder and stuff like that. So what's your experience been like playing against Serral on the ladder?
Yeah, like Serral, if you ignore the past week, was like this untouchable god that barely loses any game in ZVP. For the past week, though, he started to lose a little bit. So I have like this sunshine of hope, this light at the end of the tunnel that makes me think that maybe I can do it. But since he has like 3 games to watch, it's going to be a lot harder. I'm going to need to come up with some cool stuff.
Well, I know a lot of Protest fans out there are cheering for you, so best of luck. Looking forward to that match, of course. But for now, we're going to head back to the desk and see what those guys have to say about this.
Thank you, Smix. The Purifiers landing in Jönköping as Drogo is able to take this 3-0 victory. We saw a little bit of everything. We got motherships being neural parasited, carriers, and a lot of zealots clashing with banelings. Very, very good series for the French Protoss boys.
Good to see that level. I thought the Muslim gets, you know what? A lot of talk about PtitDrogo, but let's stop talking about the players for a second. It's all about the Muslim for me. He actually made the prediction. Talked about how Nerchio actually struggles against PtitDrogo, just something stylistic, and then boom. And Ben, I mean, how did you know?
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. I mean,
yeah,
can't always be right, but when you are, it's pretty good. But yeah, it's one of the things. When we watch Nerchio play, when he's really in his groove, he's always sending units here, there, and everywhere. Like flanks, drops here. But Drogo really plays that wrecking ball style that Nerchio can't really wrap around him like he would want to. So Nerchio has to play out of his element. And stylistically, they do match up really well in Drogo's favor.
Yeah, I think very interesting tournament to look at for the way that it's kind of ended for Nerchio. Mentioned it a little bit beforehand that he dropped that series to Semper earlier yesterday. Do we feel like, did he just not come with his A game here, or did Drogo actually knock it out of the park? Was it that insane?
I don't know. I mean, watching this series was very good play by PtitDrogo. He did not do anything super crazy, mega amazing. Like, I was kind of guffawing a little bit when he's like, I came up with this build for Blood Bowl. It's like, no, the double Archon, the double Warp Prism Archon drop has been around for a while. I mean, he elevated the greediness of it on a map that you kind of have to do that. But no, it just, Nerchio, even that big engagement where he had a bunch of Banelings and they kind of went into some Zealots, but then also went into the Archons, and then from there just kind of lost on Blood Boil. That was very un-Nerchio-esque. When I think of Nerchio, I think of these gigantic, like 6 different directional surround attacks. He's always been so good about his attacks, and like Ben said, his kind of multi-management. And in this, there just wasn't that. So I don't want to do that. I don't think it's this thing where it's like, you know, what's Nerchio's home life like? What's going like? You have a down tournament. He had a good Austin. This is going to be booked as a disappointment for him. He's better than round of 16, I think.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see Nerchio at every tournament from here to the end of the year.
And it's one of those things, right? Say if you're performing 1% worse than you usually do, but the other player's performing 1% better, that can look as crazy as a 3-0. By no means did Nerchio play bad. Maybe a little bit lesser than what he would have liked, but yeah, I think Drogo just played a very good game, and he played what he was comfortable with, which is his kind of like bulldog approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool results that we've had so far here at WCS Jönköping. We're going to take a look at the bracket as it begins to evolve. Drogo advances on. He will be playing against Cyril, one of, as we continue to talk him up, perhaps the tournament favorite moving forward on this top side. One of them
for sure. One of them for sure. I think that's the kind of funny thing, and this happens in StarCraft all the time. We're like, wow, PtitDrogo, that's an amazing result. I think the brick wall is Cyril. I think it'll be interesting to see, because I think PtitDrogo played very well, but he too was not like, he didn't bring some wacky, crazy stuff of like, man, the meta's really bad, the maps are rough, I got to go crazy. I feel like this is a little bit of like a well-executed stylistic thing like the Muslim was talking about, and it resulted in a 3-0 against Nerchio, which is surprising. But Cyril is like the next evolution. You have to do something to throw him off. So I think it'll be probably pretty one-sided, but we'll see.
All right, well, we are going to get into that next series very soon. It's going to be Scarlet going up against a Laser. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching WCS Jönköping.